There we go. Okay, so very quickly, the agenda for today, like I said, we're gonna do a short welcome. Then I'll tell you a little bit what is Education USA Guatemala, and then I'll give the time to Marcy. And at the end, we'll have a space for questions. So with Education USA is a program from the U.S. Department of State. We have 430 advising centers around the world. And what we do is provide accurate, comprehensive, and current information about U.S. higher education. And our objective is to guide students during their application process and inform them of all the requirements and also facilitate their research options to study in the U.S. Here in Guatemala, our center is based at Instituto Guatemalteco Americano IGA, and you can find us inside the Walt Whitman American Center here in IGA. And our services, besides doing this type of workshops where we share information related to the application process, we also have advising sessions one-on-one, and we give information about scholarships, we have workshops, and also educational fairs. So very briefly, I want to tell you about the 5 steps to study in the U.S. We designed these 5 steps to make the process easier. The first one is researching your options. And here's where you start looking for the universities and deciding which university is your best fit. Then we have step number 2. This is finance your studies. And in this step, we look at the financial aid, what types of financial aid you can apply to, and we help you with all that. Then step number 3 is completing your application. Here's where we look at the requirements of what documents you have to use or what type of apps you need to use. Step number 4 is applying for your student visa. This comes after when you have your acceptance letters. And then step number 5 is preparing for your departure. We always do a small sessions where we talk about how you can prepare before going to the US. And then I wanted to share that we'll have this next webinar on Thursday. It's about navigating the process of the interview admission. So if you are interested in knowing what you can expect from an admission interview, then you can join this webinar too. And also some information about our services. Like I told you, we have advising one-on-one. So you can definitely reach out to us via this link or also on social media, and we can definitely help you out if you're thinking about applying to the US. So thank you very much. This is our information. If you don't follow us on Instagram, you can follow us or also contact us via email or WhatsApp. And now I will give the floor to Marcy so she can start with the workshop. Thank you, Marcy.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mariana. I'm thrilled to be here and to connect with all of you. My name is Marcy, and I'm from the United States, but actually I live in Mexico City, and I'm based here so that I am able to talk to and visit and meet students like you all throughout Latin America and the Caribbean to talk to you about New York University's campus in Abu Dhabi. And even though I'm usually talking about the university, the purpose of our session today is, of course, focused on the application process and how to get there. So what we're going to go through, as you know, is the Common Application website. And I'm excited to share this with you because the Common App, and I'm going to send you the link in the chat right now, is such an awesome tool for students who are interested in applying to US universities like New York University. And I think the best way to learn about this tool is for you to watch me step by step use it to pretend like I'm applying to NYU so you can really get a sense of what it's going to take. Next, I'm going to log into, as you should be able to see, my practice account. This is my own Common Application account that I've already created. And before I actually create my Common Application, what I need to do is decide what universities I want to apply to. So I'm going to go to the College Search tab. And this is going to show me that 1,165 universities use the Common Application website as the only way you can apply. The beauty of this is that if you choose multiple schools on this website, you'll only need to create one common application and can send that to all of those schools. So it's really going to save you some time and to help you to stay more organized along the way. Now, obviously, over 1,000 schools is a large number, so I'm going to start by just filtering this, and we're going to look at universities solely in the United States, which brings it down to 1,103. So even though, as you can see, other nations also have universities on this website, each of those listed only have maybe one or two different campuses of usually US universities outside of the US. But for the nature of our presentation, we'll look at schools in the United States filtered by state because 1,000 is still a lot. So let's look at universities in California, Florida, one of my favorite states. My home state of, well, New York, of course, NYU, and we'll do my home state of Pennsylvania. So that gets us to 264. That still is a lot of universities, but something really cool is that you can use this list of schools as your starting point to do your research. So if I just go through them one at a time, you'll see if I click on this, it shows me the contact information, links to the website, to financial aid, a virtual tour, the social media channels, application information, all right there. After you do further research, maybe you go to their website, you decide that yes, Adelphi University in New York is somewhere you could see yourself. We will add that, and it is now saved in my list of universities. And once you have created your Common Application account, every time you log in and out, it's going to save not only your application progress, but also your research. So it will save your list of schools that you're interested in. So if I continue on with my research, maybe I'll add New York University. Oh, I already have. But you can go through and you can look at all of these. Of course, I'm going to use this as a time to remind you to give yourself plenty of time for the application process because even just the first step of deciding where to apply to is quite time consuming. So we'll add that one, Barry University in Miami, Florida as well. So now if I go to my dashboard, kind of like the home page, I can see how much of my application I've completed, and I can also see the 7 universities that I have expressed interest in applying to. So now that we've completed our research, let's go ahead and actually create our Common Application. As I mentioned at the beginning, the best part of this website is all of the information that I add in my Common App will be my application, the same exact application for those 7 schools. As we go through this together, you'll notice that most of it is pretty straightforward. My legal name, Martha Joyce Herr, although I did introduce myself as Marcy because that's my preferred name. So you can add a preferred name here that you want the universities to use to address you. My birthday, your home address, your phone number, although we know that at this point, universities are mostly going to be contacting you via email. That information is still requested. Next, we're going to go to the demographics section. You'll notice here, and throughout the application actually, that many of these questions are not required. The only required questions have that little red asterisks, like this one, so I answered female. For questions that are optional, it is not going to help my application if I choose to answer them. And it also is not going to hurt my application if I leave them blank. It simply is optional because it's information that those universities do not need in order to make their admissions decisions. So do not stress about questions that are optional. You can just skip them as I have done here. Also, you'll notice throughout the Common App that this website is geared towards students from the United States because most of the universities on this website are in the US. Please don't let that intimidate you. For example, this question, US Armed Forces status. No, of course, we're not involved in the US military. It's optional anyway, so I'm going to skip it and leave it blank. But just note that year after year, all of the universities on this website are receiving applications from international students like you, and they love that and they're used to that. So we just have to sort of keep that in mind and adjust our answers based on the education system in Guatemala as we go through this. Next section. How many languages are you proficient in? I would imagine at least 2 for those of you joining me. So I'm going to say English and Spanish. You could add more if you know more. That'd make me really jealous, but answer according to your language knowledge. Geography and nationality. I've gone ahead and already filled this in for us. So I said my birth country is Guatemala, city of birth, Antigua. Number of years you have lived in the United States, 0. Please note, those questions are optional. I answered them anyway. This next question, though, is required. Select your citizenship status. U.S. citizen, dual citizen, permanent resident, non-U.S., U.S. resident. So pretending that I'm you, I'm going to say, and perhaps you have U.S. citizenship, it's going to look different for each of you. But let's say your answer is citizen of non-U.S. country. As you move down, the next required questions are your country of citizenship and do you hold a valid U.S. visa? So I said Guatemala, no. And then look, the last 2 questions here are optional. Do you intend to apply for a new or different U.S. visa? I could leave that blank and it's not going to impact my application in any way. Because right now we're not applying for a visa. Right now we are applying for admissions. And if these universities choose to admit you, at that point they are going to work with you on those next steps in the process of applying for your student visa. So for right now, we are not stressing about that. We're just answering the questions to the best of our ability. Do you intend to apply for a new visa? Yes. Visa type. There's a whole bunch listed. Again, you could leave this blank if you want to, but I'm just going to say F1 student and move on to the next question. Common application fee waiver. This is an important part. It is very expensive, even just to apply to universities. And I chose 7 that I want to apply to. All of them are going to have different fees for international students to apply. Some might be free, but others might be $20 US, $50 US. NYU costs $85 US to apply. We understand that that really adds up. So if that would be a financial burden to your family, you actually can apply to many universities for free by answering this question. It's asking me if that fee presents a financial burden to my family, and then I need to kind of prove that. But the ways it allows me to prove that, these are all US government programs that, of course, don't apply to students in Guatemala, but this last one can help us. It says, you can provide a supporting statement from a school official, college access counselor, financial aid officer, or community leader. So I'm going to say yes, and then type my full formal name in this fee waiver signature box to verify. What will happen later is I'm going to show you how to add the name and email address from a teacher from your school who is going to support your application by sending me things like your grades, school details. And when you answer yes to this question, that teacher is also going to be asked to verify that you need a fee waiver. It will be something as simple as Martha Herr has indicated that she needs a fee waiver in order to apply to NYU. Based on your knowledge of the student, can you verify this to be true? And my teacher just needs to check a box. It's quite straightforward to get that fee waiver if that would be an issue for you. And this last one is a US government program. I just left it blank. When we're reviewing your application, we are looking at it holistically. We want to know not just about your grades, but really your whole story. And part of that, of course, is your family. So we're going to ask some pretty straightforward questions about your family. Many of them are optional. We want to know the marital status of your parents. There's really something here for everyone. Who do you live with? Do you have any children? An optional question. And then for each of your parents, you are going to need to answer a number of questions. My father, is this parent living? What is their name? Do you want the Common Application and universities to communicate with that parent about your progress? If so, you can add their contact details. What is their occupation? You'll notice I left the optional questions blank. Is your parent employed by a university? Name of their current employer. Their highest level education level. So going from none the whole way up to graduate school, like a master's degree or a PhD. For my father, the answer is some university. Then I need to say he attended one university, and I need to add the name of that school. And he did not receive a degree. He did not finish. For my mother, I answered the same questions, and for my siblings, I just answered their names and how many siblings I have. Okay, hopefully so far it's been pretty straightforward, but now it gets a little bit more complicated. We're first going to start by adding the name of our current school. I've already added a school in Antigua here, but as you search for your own school, if you don't see it on this list, no problem at all. You're just going to need to add the information of your school, the address, manually. So I said Antigua International. When did you start there? Is this a boarding school? Do you live there? No. Will you graduate from this school? Yes. When will you graduate? June 2026. Next, please indicate if any of these options will have affected your progression through or since secondary school or high school. I have a question. If you could tell me in the chat box, because I don't remember, how many years is high school in Guatemala? The reason that I ask you is because in the United States, it's 4 years. So everything that we are answering throughout the Common Application is based on those 4 years of high school. But that's the US system. So in Guatemala, it is how many years? Who can tell me? It is, can someone tell me in the chat box? Because basically, all of the questions you're answering are based on the years of high school in Guatemala. So for example, this one, during your years of high school, did you graduate early or late? Did you take time off? Or you just went straight through? If you went straight through and there was no change in that timeline, no problem. However, if you did have some sort of pause or you graduated at a different time than you were supposed to, we just want to understand that context. So for example, maybe I needed to work and save money before applying to universities. And so because of that, I took a gap year. Anything as simple as that. We just really want to understand the full story of, thank you, those 5 years that you spent in high school. Moving on. If during those 5 years you attended more than one school, we need to know the name of that other school. So just like with the first one, I'm going to add my school name. Then I will say the dates that I attended the other school and why I switched schools. Something as simple as, in my second year of high school, my family moved to a new city where I completed high school. Or in my school system, the last 2 years are studied at a different school. Boxes like this throughout the Common App website are just giving you the opportunity to provide more context or more explanation to the person who is reading your application, kind of filling in the blanks for them so they really understand your full story. Some students have the opportunity to take university level courses during their time in high school. If that applies to you, that's awesome. We just want to know the name of that university, so you'll add that, and the dates that you were there. In the grades section, most of these questions are not required. The first one, what is the approximate size of your graduating class? So in June of 2026, when I finish at Antigua International, how many will graduate with me? Right now, my approximate size is 75 students. That question is required, however, the next two are optional. What is your class rank? In the United States, it is very common to rank students based on their academic performance. So for example, out of 75, my teacher told me that I am number 22 based on my grades as of today. Or perhaps it's in the top 20%. Or maybe your school does not have class ranking. That's no problem. It's optional. We understand that many schools don't use that system, so it's not something that should be calculated. We will just skip it. Same thing in the next section. GPA, grade point average. Maybe you've seen that in a movie before about US high school. Many schools in the United States use that as a system to measure academics. Many schools outside of the United States do not use it at all. Again, this is not something that should be calculated. But if your school does have GPA, then please add your grade point average here. So maybe you'll have to work with your teachers to answer that. But if not, again, we'll just leave it blank. Continuing on, current or most recent year courses. Right now, in your last year of school, how many classes are you taking? Of course, this will look different at each school. So at my school right now, in my final year, I have 7 classes. They are each a semester long, half a year. Then we want to know the course subject, name, level, and when you are taking it. Please do translate those course names to English. Everything submitted in your Common Application needs to be in English. And then do your best to match it to the course level. There are a number of different options here. It could be a regular or a standard class, an advanced class, or maybe you can't find one that makes sense, so you could just say NA not applicable. But we should see all of your current courses in this section. The honors section gives us the opportunity to add up to 5 academically related honors in those 5 years of high school. Every school is going to have different honors available, and in this section, you only need to report the title of the award. Although I suggest also that you include the level of recognition to give us a little bit more context. So things like merit list, for example, honor roll, valedictorian. Maybe you can think of examples from your school. Class prefect, math Olympiad, anything that is academically related goes here. In the next section, community-based organizations, we want to know if during your application process, you worked with anyone who provided free assistance on your application. For all of you, your answer is yes. Education USA provided you with free support on your application process. And I'm so proud of you, honestly, for taking advantage of this learning opportunity and encourage you to continue staying in communication with Education USA. Answering this question won't hurt your application at all. It also won't help you. We're just curious. And then finally, in this section, we need to answer our future plans. So later, I'm going to show you how you will select the specific degree and major that you want at each of those 7 schools. But for right now, this is just asking you broadly, what are your future plans? What's the highest degree that you intend to earn? So for example, after your bachelor's degree at NYU Abu Dhabi, will you go on and further your education for a master's or a law degree? Who knows? But for right now, what is your best idea? And also your career interest. There's a huge list you can choose from. Try to find something that suits you. But if not, you could still say undecided, no problem, or other. And I've added my career interest as a Cancun wedding destination planner. Whatever you are interested in. Hopefully, so far so good. Next, we're going to review the standardized testing, then my favorite section, activities, and then the essay. Standardized testing requirements are going to look different at every university that you are applying to, and so it's very important that you are clear on those expectations and requirements. For example, NYU is test optional. We don't need you to submit the SAT or the ACT. You can apply without those, and we will assess your academics based only on your high school grades. That being said, if you do want to report those scores, this is your section to do so. So I will go here and say, yes, I'm going to send my IB scores. Maybe you go to an IB school, my SAT scores, and my Duolingo. Even though we are test optional, we do require English language proficiency exams. That could be a number of different exams like TOEFL, PTE, IELTS, Duolingo, Cambridge. So in this example, I have selected Duolingo. And in your education system, you are not required to take an exam in order to graduate, so I said no. But as you can see, it has now added 3 sections for me to go ahead and add my future test dates or the scores that I already have. Maybe for something like IB, you're going to apply to the university with predicted scores, and that's fine. We understand. Even though I'm adding these scores here and I'm self-reporting, you're going to need to make sure that those official scores are sent to the universities that you are applying to by the testing boards or by your high school. Sound good? All right, get your questions ready because we're kind of finishing up. I love this next section. because I think that this is where you really have the opportunity to personalize your application a little bit more and really show us what makes you you and what you're passionate about. In the activity section, you have the opportunity to add 10 different activities. It could be any of these things: sports, music, art, theater, community service, a job, student clubs at school, leadership. All of that looks really good because when we read that involvement on your application, what we see is a leader, and that's the type of student that universities want to have. So if you're a younger student right now, this is your reminder to do your best to really fill up this section. I've already added some examples for you. My advice is that you add your most impressive activity first. Where do you want our eyes to go to first? You're going to need to categorize each of your activities, add your position, tell us the name of the organization, and then a short description. A very short description. In fact, only 150 characters, not even words. So very short and concise, like a resume. If any of your organizations are in Spanish, for example, the student club Techo, you should be translating that here. Assume that the person reading your application does not speak Spanish, so they know nothing about the student club Techo, and you need to explain to them in this section what that is. Other advice I have to really strengthen this section is that we want to see involvement kind of like the letter T, that you're involved in many different things, and that over the years you have given back to those organizations, that you've grown through that organization. Maybe I started as a member on the basketball team, and by my final year of school, I was the team captain. So I've really grown in that. Other guidance is that as much as possible, you should be using numbers to really quantify your experience. So not just, I was the team manager at the store. Okay, tell me more. I managed 8 people. I increased sales by 10%. By adding those numbers, it's strengthening the impact that I have had and really demonstrating that to the person reading my application. When you finish in this section, I suggest that you use the preview tool at the top to edit this. Make sure that it reads clearly, that it's as impressive as can be, and that there are no typos. Students spend so much time editing their essay and then forget to edit this part. So really make sure that it's looking good. You can add 10 activities, but it doesn't need to be 10. It's up to a maximum of 10. And following your activities, there's a second part, a second section here to understand anything else outside of the classroom that has impacted your experience. For example, maybe you had a job, maybe you had to help translate things for your family, maybe you were taking care of sick or elderly relatives. Any of these that apply to you, please check them off so that we really understand your life outside of the classroom. And the same thing goes here. Please select which circumstances you've experienced. I commuted 60 minutes or more to and from school each day. Oh, now I understand that student had a little bit less time to be involved in a student club or an after-school activity because they had a very long commute. So whatever that may be in your story, please let us know here. And now we will move to the final section of the Common App part, and this is the essay. Only 4 out of the 7 universities I have chose to apply to actually require the essay, but these instructions explain to me that I could still send it to those other 3, and I might as well. I already have to write it. The Common Application essay, I think, can be a little bit intimidating, but I hope it's not, because it really is your opportunity to tell your story. We're not looking to read that you have traveled the world and interned for a CEO. We want to know, in your 17, 18, 19 lived years experience, what has made you who you are today, or what are you passionate about? Really, the only rules are that your essay needs to be between 250 and 650 words, and that it must respond to 1 out of these 7 questions. If you give these a quick glance, you'll see that they really cover a lot. Your greatest accomplishment, your greatest obstacle, something that makes you proud, something you're very passionate about. So my advice is to really give yourself time for the essay writing process. Go through these and really think about what potential stories you could tell. Some examples, there's a student right now in her final year at NYU Abu Dhabi from Mexico, and her essay was about her grandmother's chicken soup. and how it was her favorite food growing up because it always reminded her of family. And she used that soup as a metaphor for herself. And each ingredient was like a different aspect that made her who she is today. It might sound silly, but it was memorable. That was 4 years ago, and I still remember. And it also was unique. It really told me more of her life story. So definitely give yourself time on that. I encourage you to have people edit your essay for you, whether it's a friend, a teacher, someone in your family, to really make sure that you have perfected your spelling and grammar. Once you're ready, you can paste your essay here and you're all set. And then finally, in this section, we ask a couple questions about additional information. Is there any other details or circumstances that we need to understand in order to accurately assess your application? For example, any of these things, natural disasters, your physical or mental health, family disruptions, anything like that that has impacted you greatly, you can explain here. This is not asking you to make excuses, for example, for poor grades, but rather to help us understand your story more. And then the last one is very similar, but is there any additional information? So anything that hasn't been covered, because this is the last question of the Common App. So in all of those answers, is there anything else we should know? If so, tell us here. And that, my friends, is the end of the Common App because the universities we are applying to do not require courses and grades. The reason we don't need you to submit your grades here is because your school is going to send us your transcript that shows us all of your official grades. So there's no need for you to do that twice. Now, that is the end of the Common App. And that information is going to go to all 7 of those schools. But in order to submit our Common Application, we have to do one more thing, and that is in the My Colleges section. Here in My Colleges, you can see those 7 universities, and we'll go to the My Colleges section to do 3 things. 1, answer university-specific questions, like what's your major? 2, to invite the person that's going to write your letter of recommendation. And 3, to ultimately submit your application. So let's do that for NYU. For NYU, we're going to go ahead and go through these questions specific to the university. For example, when do you want to start? What is your admission plan? Early decision 2, or regular decision? What campus are you applying to? Because NYU has 3 campuses. Do you understand that with early decision, that means you are definitely going to accept that offer of admission if the school accepts you? Are you going to apply for scholarships? So you're going to see similar questions like these, regardless of the university that you are choosing to apply to. Next, in the academics section, we're going to ask if you're going to be submitting standardized test scores. So you will tell us that again here. And then these last couple of check marks are just to ensure that you know that we need to be receiving documents from your school. So this is just kind of your reminder to talk to your school about sending us those documents. In the contact section, we just want to know, have you applied before? Can we contact you via phone? Do you have any connection in your family to the university? Then we have our own essay. Some universities don't require an essay at all. Some require only the Common App essay, and some will have their own unique essay. So the unique NYU essay you can see here to answer. And then finally, we're just asking if you have been in any legal trouble. And that is the end of the NYU specific questions. Before we submit, you need to do one more thing, and that is to invite your recommender. I have already accepted the FERPA privacy agreement, which basically means I understand that a teacher from my school is going to send a letter of recommendation as well as my grades on my behalf, and they can send that directly to the school. I don't need to see it. Just acknowledging that that is a confidential process. Once you have done that, you are then able to add the name and email address of someone from your school. It could be an English teacher, a counselor, a principal. It's different at every school. For us, the position of that person doesn't matter. What matters is that there is someone at your school who can support your application. When I hit invite counselor, I'm going to add their email address and their name here. What will happen is they will immediately, even before I have submitted my Common App, receive an email that says, "Dear teacher, please use this link to create your own Common Application account to submit the required documentation for Martha Herr because she's applying to NYU." So that teacher will then need to answer questions about my school, like how many students are there? What types of classes do they take? Do students from your school usually go to university? Things like that. That teacher will also need to submit my transcript showing all of my official grades in English again. And then they will write one letter of recommendation about how unique and awesome of a student I am. And they have until the deadline, just like me, to submit all of that. For NYU, every year, our deadlines are November 1st, January 1st, and January 5th. Most US universities follow similar deadlines, but they can differ a little bit. So that's also something you need to pay attention to. Make sure that the teacher at your school who will be sending all of this information is aware of the role that they will play to support you, because you're not their only student and they are always very busy. And so please communicate to them and also send this invitation to them early, because as I work on finishing my Common Application, they can be submitting these documents at the same time. So once I have done that, I will come here. Obviously, I'm in a practice account and I have not completed fully my application, but this is where you'll come to submit your application when the time comes. So with that, I know it was a lot, but I moved quickly because I feel like when you can actually see it, you realize it is quite straightforward. That being said, we did leave some time for questions. So is there anything that still is a little bit confusing that you would like more information on?
I haven't received any questions, but I do have some of my own because the platform changed a little bit. So I was like, well, maybe we can discuss some of the changes. So the first one is, let me see. Okay, so if I'm still not sure to which school I will apply, can I still begin my Common App? Like, is that something
Yeah,
that I can
that's a
do?
good question. Absolutely. So every year the Common Application website is going to reset on August 1st. So if you're a younger student, you can go and you can create your free Common Application account today. You can even start to add information, but you might lose it because on August 1, it will kind of go to sleep for 24 hours and reset for students who are applying in that academic cycle. And when it does that, some of the questions might change. Like we saw last year, they revamped the entire website and now it's better, but like Mariana said, it looks different. So we're still learning it. That being said, as you are working on your application, you can be adding more universities and still completing your university research, even as you are completing your Common Application.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Marcy. And for example, what if my teachers don't speak English? Because you said we have to choose a counselor, but sometimes here in Guatemala, we have the situation where they don't always speak English. So what will be your recommendation in that case?
Yeah, absolutely. So I know that it makes the process a little bit more challenging. Um, at the least, you are still going to need to submit your grades and a letter of recommendation. But if a teacher from the school can't answer those extra questions, we understand. And so for the transcript, if the student has access to that, they can actually translate it themselves and then, or go to a translation agency or to Education USA and upload that unofficially to their application. And then if they are later admitted, they would need to make sure that their official transcript from the school is being sent. And for the letter of recommendation, even if a teacher who doesn't speak English writes it, as long as there's someone from the school or a translation agency to translate it, that would be okay.
Okay. Thank you, Marcy. And what happens, for example, with the English living test? I don't know if you saw that part, but there's a part where they ask you if you have like this type of test before leaving high school. And this was actually a question that an advisor from Costa Rica had, that they do take the exams, but they don't receive the grades, because I think they ask you for the grades. So what can be done in those cases if I do take the exam, but I don't know yet my score, for example?
Or you said in terms of English exams?
Yeah. Mhm.
That's tricky because sometimes you can, for example, I can say in my common application that I'm going to take the Duolingo exam in the future. So maybe I want to submit my application today, December 9th, even though the deadline isn't until January. And actually, I'm going to take my Duolingo exam in December. So I will list it here that I'm going to take it in the future. And then I wouldn't have a score if I'm taking it in the future. Whoops. But the thing is, we can't make an admissions decision without
Without it.
those scores. And so we can wait if we know that the scores are on their way, but there's a limit. And so students need to look at the date they're going to receive the scores and the application deadlines. And for example, if I'm not going to receive my results until January, well, then I should not apply early decision one in November. I should wait until January and give myself more time. But again, there is a limit to how long we can wait.
Okay, thank you. And for example, in some careers here in Guatemala, we have like bachillerato is 5 years, but what if it were a longer career? Do I still take the last 4 years, or to report the transcripts? It will be always the last four, or
Yeah, so I mean, it depends on the student and the school within Guatemala that they attend. And so if they're in the normal 5 years, okay. If it's four, if it's six, just as long as we're receiving all of the information from those years. If it's from two schools, that means we need to receive two different transcripts. And sometimes that means that one school is emailing the transcript to the university instead of going through the whole Common App process. So they would just need to Google, for example, NYU admissions office and send them the transcript with the student's name and say, Marcy already applied. This is the grades from her school. And then we can manually add those grades. But yeah, it doesn't matter to us whether it's 4 years or 5 years or 6 years, just as long as it is fully explained in the application so that we understand how many years that student was in high school.
okay. Okay, thank you very much. And then we have, do sports and volunteering activities done in their gap year, will that count as extracurriculars?
Definitely.
Is it
Yeah,
okay?
it definitely would, because if you're taking a gap year, we want to see, okay, what did you do during that time? We already saw your high school career, but in your gap year, what have you done? And so whether it was a job or volunteering or a sport, definitely add that as well.
Okay. Mm. And then, for example, here's another one. What if like the student says, what if I have more classes as subjects than there are spaces in the Common App? Like where
Yeah.
should they put that
Sure.
extra
So
information?
anything like that, if you can't fit your courses in the current or most recent, then you can just add that overflow in the additional information. Where did we put that here? So this allows you to add up to 15. If you have more than 15 classes, I'm so sorry. That is a lot. That sounds like a ton of
Okay.
work. But if that is the case for you, then later, if we go to writing and the additional information, this last question here, you should be expressing, just add a list of those other classes.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. And let me see. Okay, so if, for example, if they have a high school diploma, can they put it in the Common App? Does it help if they have a high school diploma, like from?
I mean, it doesn't help because in order to apply to these universities, you need to be a graduate of high school. So everyone has
Mhm,
that.
mhm,
So it doesn't
mhm.
really help in any way.
I think that they mean because here we have like the diploma that for Guatemala, like the schools give for Guatemala, and then some schools because they have more English classes, they give like um, a different type of diploma. But I think that's what they
Sure.
mean.
So then, yes, that could help. I suggest that that goes in the additional information section right here, or even in the honors section. Um,
Okay.
with a lot of information that you're submitting in the Common App, sometimes there's a little bit of gray area as to where it should go. And if that's the case, it kind of doesn't matter. Just as long as you're sharing it with us, it doesn't matter what part you put it in. So, for example, I could talk about my diploma here in additional information because I would have a little bit more space to explain it. But if you decide instead to put it in the honors section, it would just be a one line of what that diploma is without really room to explain it. So maybe it makes sense to put it in additional information.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you very much. And the last one is about the fee waivers. Like if I click on yes, I need a fee waiver, how do I know? Like how will I know if the universities gave me the waiver
Sure.
or
It's going to look different for each university. For NYU Abu Dhabi, as long as your teacher approves it, it's guaranteed. And so that would be a
Mhm,
conversation with your teacher to follow up with them because they would actually
mhm,
be the one approving that, along with the university, but more so the teacher. And so it would be a conversation with the teacher. And you also could email admissions officers like myself at the university just to ask them
mhm.
if the fee waiver is guaranteed.
Okay. Okay. Excellent. Thank you, Marcy. I don't
You're
know.
welcome.
I don't have any more questions. I don't know if anyone wants to ask anything else.
It doesn't seem like it, but they can always follow up with you or follow up with me. But I thank you so much for making this opportunity available to all of us. I hope that it was beneficial.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Marcy, for your time and for giving us the walkthrough. It was very helpful. And I'll be seeing you. Mhm. I'll be sharing
Awesome.
also the contacts.
Sounds great. Excellent. Thanks,
Thank
everyone. Have a good
you.
rest of your day. Slayo. Bye.
Bye.